Did you hear about the woman caught in adultery? How embarrassing. Today on Theology Quip Notes, we're going to take a look at the story of the woman caught in adultery. Jesus was teaching in the temple area. He had this crowd around him. They had gathered up to hear him teach, and so he taught. In those times, it was customary for someone in authority to sit while they taught. And so his audience would be standing, and he would be sitting, and he was showing his authority to teach by sitting. I don't think there were any chairs there. He was sitting on the ground. The teachers of the law came to him with this woman whom they had caught in adultery. And they demanded, "Teacher, we caught this woman in the very act of adultery. Now, the law of Moses says that she is to be stoned to death. What do you say?" We need a little bit of backstory here. In the time of Jesus, Judea was occupied by Roman forces. Judea was under the authority of the Roman emperor. And the Roman emperor allowed local areas to have a certain amount of autonomy. They could enforce their own laws to some extent. But one thing that the Roman authorities did not allow them to do was to execute people. If someone needed to be executed, they needed to be brought before the Roman authorities, and the Roman authorities would make a decision about whether that was appropriate or not. What the teachers of the law were actually doing was they were asking Jesus to make a decision about whether or not he was going to support the Roman rules, which would make him a Roman sympathizer, or if he was going to go against the Roman rules and support the Jewish rules, and then he would become a rebel against the Romans. It's the same dilemma that was put before him in the story of paying taxes to Caesar in the last Theology Quip Notes. Jesus kind of tried to ignore them at first. He was doodling on the ground. I mean, he was already there on the ground, and so he was just tracing in the dirt. He was showing indifference to the case they were bringing before him. But they persisted, and so he finally stood up and said, "Let the one of you who is without sin, let that one cast the first stone." He was giving them permission to follow the Jewish law, which is what they were asking for. But he was only giving them permission to do it under very specific circumstances. And these circumstances were so stringent that none of them would qualify. Let's take a look at Psalm 51, verse 5. "I have been evil from the day I was born. From the time I was conceived, I have been sinful." Jewish theology supports the idea that we are all sinful. The actual practice of the everyday person knows that no one is keeping all of the laws of the Torah. Practical experience tells us, yes, that's true. We really are all sinful. Well, what happened? The crowd was a little bit stunned by what he said, and as they thought about it, the older people in the crowd started melting away first. They realized, oh, we've created quite the deception here. We've sinned in making this deception. And so they left. They realized that they didn't really have the right to accuse her of anything, because what they did was really just as bad. And then the younger ones started realizing, wait a minute, the authority figures that I was counting on, they're leaving. I don't think I can hold on to this by myself. And so they nervously slipped away also. Jesus was left just with the woman caught in adultery. He looks around and he says to her, "Is there no one left to accuse you?" And she says, "No one, sir." "Then neither do I accuse you. Go your way and do not sin again." I guess Jesus was just letting her off the hook, right? I mean, he doesn't take adultery seriously, right? Well, I wouldn't say that. Let's take a little bit closer of a look at the deception that the teachers of the law put before Jesus. The specific law that they were looking at reads like this: if a man commits adultery with his neighbor's wife, both the adulterer and the adulteress shall be put to death. It seems that the teachers of the law kind of missed the part about how the man was supposed to be present for the execution also, that he was supposed to be executed as well. I mean, how did the teachers of the law contrive this? Did they just happen upon a couple who was committing adultery? It seems more like a setup. It seems like probably someone from their rank tempted this woman who was oblivious to the plan, because, I mean, why would someone volunteer to be executed? She was probably oblivious to the plan, and then he conveniently wasn't brought before Jesus, because since he was part of the plan, he didn't want to be executed. But, Jesus was like, what are you doing? There's supposed to be two people here. I mean, seriously? You really want me to make a ruling on this? After all, it's unfitting for the woman to be punished in a way that the man isn't. It's unfitting for the woman only to be punished. This woman had been a victim of the same deception that Jesus was. And she fell for it. Jesus didn't, but she did. And so the public accusation, that was already her penance. Jesus didn't let her off easy. She had already paid for what she had done. She didn't pay death, but, well, maybe she shouldn't have anyway. Jesus did not appear to want her execution at all. He forgave her and let her go. And for such a grand sin as that, well, we're called to be like Christ. When people wrong us, then we're called to forgive them too. Even if it's not such a grand sin, how can we not forgive lesser sins? For Theology Quip Notes, this is Ray Hurdle for St. Luke Catholic Church.